Bitcoin is just hours away from confirming a breakout of a massive multi-year resistance, and you need to know what this means right now. What is up, legends, and welcome back to Bitcoin Easy IO, your daily home for no-nonsense crypto technical analysis. I'm absolutely buzzing today, and you should be too. The weekly close tonight is one of the most important we've seen in a long time. Today our entire focus is on Bitcoin. We're going to break down this monumental resistance level, what a confirmation looks like, and how the price could react heading into a pivotal week. And speaking of a pivotal week, get ready, because we're rolling straight into Washington's first ever crypto week and the all-important US CPI report on Tuesday. The fireworks are just getting started, folks. Yesterday we took a deep dive into mastering volume with the 10th episode of The Journey. If you haven't seen how to use volume and the volume profile indicator yet, you'll definitely want to check that out after this, as it adds a ton of context to today's potential breakout. If you're ready to stay ahead of these market moving events, make sure you smash that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you don't miss a single update. Let's get into these charts. Alright guys, so top-down analysis, but we're focusing mainly on the bigger picture today. We're mainly focusing on the weekly chart today. This is the key thing that we're seeing here. This is something that is game changer for Bitcoin at the moment. I've been talking a lot about how this cycle looks very different from previous cycles, and also off the cameras we've been discussing it a lot, that this is really a cycle that changes everything, right? We have the first year or the first cycle of real institutional adoption and governments coming in, and it's just massive for Bitcoin. And this will bring a lot towards the bear markets as well, because we've seen these massive drops of an average of about 84 to 85% every time Bitcoin came down from its cycle tops, right? And then went down to its bear market bottoms. And this could of course change. I mean, we've seen that most of the moves currently have not been caused by retail investors, but by institutional investors. And institutional investors likely take an approach like strategy B or micro strategy, like Michael Saylor did, and keep adding Bitcoin, right? They're not looking to sell any Bitcoin. They're just buying and buying and buying. And that of course then will keep the price way more stable in the future. And that is of course a big thing as well. I mean, a lot of people are talking about Bitcoin dominance to break down, and that now alt season is starting. But as I told you many times here on the channel, even in the last cycle already, I don't expect anything to change quite yet in the Bitcoin dominance chart and how it behaved in recent years. Just the other day I've seen a post from a big account on X, Crypto Jack I think it was. You can see it right up here right now, and I also commented on it, and I usually don't do that, but that chart was just extremely misleading, and I see a lot of that stuff. A lot of people forcing their thesis by drawing up charts that look pretty, but then in the end make no sense. So therefore, guys, really make sure that you're careful who you're listening to and who you're following on these platforms, and stay away from FOMOing into stuff based on this. You have to understand one thing here, right? On this channel, you don't see me pushing any links. I don't tell you about any trades that I enter or anything. And that's the big difference here. I'm trying to give you a clear image of what's going on in the market. And if you start understanding what I'm talking about a bit, then you of course also know what trading ranges I'm talking about. But I'm really giving you context here that is useful to understand where the market is at, and then you can make your own decision. You can of course take other information, other content into consideration, and you should. And then when you see those scenarios where everyone aligns with their opinion, those then are usually the high probability setups that you can find. But in future, of course, I will be doing different stuff and on different platforms as well. But here I'm really focusing on you guys to really understand where the market is at least in my opinion. And without tooting my own horn, I've been pretty accurate here, and I hope you guys appreciate this. What I'm trying to say is the other channels, a lot of the big channels, right? They post big titles like, I'm entering this 5 or 10 or 20 or $100 million trade because this and this and this is happening. And you have to understand, they are pushing huge bonus codes in their videos. That's the main income they have on their channels, right? They're not making as much money off YouTube. They're making all the money with their affiliate deals. So you have to understand, whenever they say, I'm entering this position now, a lot of people are following and FOMOing into this. And it's very simple, guys. If you sign up to an exchange, right, which you will do anyways, or have done or whatever, would you rather go there by yourself and get exactly what you came with, as far as what you deposit is what you end up getting on your account? Or will you go with a friend or his code And if you use that code, they just double what you get. So let's say you deposit $10,000, now you're getting $20,000, right? This is beneficial for every party, right? The influencer is bringing new customers to the site. The site is making money by getting new customers. Most of the customers coming to the site are not profitable and they're making money on the fees either way. And now the influencer on the back end is making money about 40% or even more sometimes of their trading fees forever, as long as they're trading on this exchange, right? So it's a win-win for everybody. And therefore, that's the main intent with these accounts that are always talking about big trades that they're entering. And then, of course, they're constantly pushing those links. There's a lot of good deals that you have on the table. And I don't blame anyone to use those codes. That's probably the smart thing to do, especially if you know what you're doing and you expect to make money on the bottom line. Then you want to come in with a big bonus attached, right? But most of the time there's deals between the exchange and the influencer. For those deals, of course, there are certain agreements that they have to push a certain type of content, right? That brings the customers to the site. Therefore, I really, really recommend you, as you know, there's no financial advice on this channel, only educational content. And that's one piece of educational content that you really need to take to heart, is to block out all the noise and focus on the charts and the price, right? If people try to make you FOMO into something, it's usually not a good sign. Okay guys, gotten that out of the way. That took here most of the video now, but I really had to get this off my chest as it's pissing me off how these guys are just pushing for people to go to exchanges so they can make more money on the back end. And of course, it always looks like these guys are absolute baller traders, but let me tell you, just by watching how they analyze the charts, I can tell you that they don't have any clue what they're talking about. Right guys, so here we have a massive one now. This is one that we looked at on the monthly chart actually for a while here now, where we're connecting all the cycle tops. Actually, let's go over to the monthly chart to get a clearer image of it, of the trend line. And here we can see it, 2017, 2021, and now the current cycle, right? Here we're connecting the bodies on the monthly chart, and we have just reached the trend line here recently with the current all-time high of over $118,000, right? So from this perspective, a clear spot that we're now breaking down from there, right? That this is something that we have not managed to break above here, at least on a closing basis, all the way since 2017. So keep that in mind. This is massive resistance. Of course, we can expect here to get a wick above there and get somewhere into the $120,000 to $130,000 range, but then likely that we close below there on the monthly, right? Potentially, guys, but there's one massive one on the table today, as we've seen in the weekly chart here. We have never managed to close above there since in the previous cycles or in this cycle either. So we're connecting once again on a closing basis, the bodies here, 2017, then here April 2021, then November 2021. We continue upwards here to the January and December highs of this cycle. And now you can see here another top, another touch point. And this weekly candle now is actually breaking that line. And that would be the first ever weekly close above such a massive historic trend line, right? This is a resistance line here, dynamic resistance line, that is coming from all the way from 2017. And I'm only looking back to 2017 because, of course, before it was only Bitcoin. If you go back to 2013, 2014, and before, especially if you look at the Bitcoin dominance chart. By the way, guys, I'm going to bring out a short video on Bitcoin dominance later on. It's going to be my first of hopefully many short videos that I will be posting here and on TikTok and Instagram as well, where I'm just breaking down charts in under 90 seconds in a vertical format, because of course long form content is not as popular nowadays as the short form content. So I'm trying to jump a little bit more onto that train as well, alongside with my daily news reports that I make, of course. So here we can see it. So here we're looking at two trends, and we have a breakout of this one, obviously. If we stay here above right around $113,000, then we confirm here this break of this multi-year trend line. And then we finally printed a nice clear structure point here, a high, a low, and now a higher high. And we're headed upwards towards this resistance line here, right? And that's here right around $134,000 to $135,000 if we get there by the end of the month or next month, right? And that is here, of course, then a very, very strong resistance coming from connecting all the current cycle tops here. We also see that in the area is the 100% level on the Fibonacci extension, where we took that from the last low here from the previous range between 74 and 50K to our previous range top, and then back down to the low afterwards. And that's now the target that we got, right? We just broke through the 61.8 there. That was the resistance point here currently, and that's broken now. So likely target here, the 100% level, and that's here in perfect confluence with the resistance of the ascending channel that we're currently trading in. So massive, massive level here. And then one thing becomes very, very huge. If we now then close up there in the range of $134,000 here on a monthly closing basis. Then of course we break this trend line here also on this time frame, and then this is absolutely massive. Then this is confirmation that everything changed for Bitcoin, that Bitcoin is going parabolic here out of an already very, very strong trend. Of course, Bitcoin is on an absolute tear since its existence, really. Now if we would break this resistance line, then of course that is a clear sign here that much higher price targets are in sight for Bitcoin. So the bearish scenario of course could be that next week we get pretty bad numbers from the CPI reports, and that there's some more bearish stuff coming out from the first ever crypto week in Washington. And then of course we could see here very strong rejection. Of course we've been looking at the $118,000 range here as our next target for the last few weeks here on the channel, because we took the Fibonacci extension that showed us clearly that the next level here in line is right between $118,000 and $120,000. Then we also went over to the daily chart. We took measurement of the pattern here of this falling wedge or descending channel, whatever you want to look at it as. Then we saw as well that that's right at $118,000. Here we can do it once again. Breakout level, you can see it gave us basically the exact top here. Therefore, very strong resistance was expected exactly here in the $118,000 range. As we can see here, one of the Fibonacci extensions that we drawn as well here on the 4-hourly chart. Here, of course, we have the same descending channel or falling wedge pattern that we saw on the daily chart. And there we saw that we had the last rejection here in that channel. Therefore, we took the extension here from the previous low to that high, where we then got the rejection back down here to the bottom of that retracement. And then we followed that by the breakout, right? That was then the breakout from that pattern. We had a few retests here. We tried to confirm it as support, the previous resistance level. And then here had a massive surge to the upside. And there we saw that that extension gave us almost the exact target here as well for the top here for the current rally. Then we can expect some more resistance in the $120,000 range. Above there then, of course, the larger trend would come into play here. Very clearly to see here on the weekly chart. That is the level that we then expect here next, right around $134,000 to $135,000 here, where of course we have strong alignment here between another Fibonacci extension level and of course also the trend line here from this ascending channel that we've been trading in within this cycle. Right guys, as I said, today I'm going to be focusing on the long term. Then of course we got the weekly open tomorrow. We're going to get back into the weekly chart to see how that wrapped up here as far as that key resistance level goes. And then we go into the smaller time frames as well to analyze what's important in the upcoming week, where of course we could have major events back to back, where as we don't know yet what is coming out of that first ever crypto week in Washington. And then really important, the CPI report coming out. And then of course, if that is not looking extremely bullish, then we can expect a pullback. And then of course tomorrow we will also look at the key levels that are important to hold here for Bitcoin for the short to mid-term here to continue in this current uptrend. I broke it down for you guys already on Friday. If you want to see the current pullback levels that are important on the smaller time frames, check out the video up there in the corner right now. All right, that's a wrap for today. The key takeaway is simple. All eyes on tonight's weekly close. A confirmation above this historic resistance could kick off the next major leg up for Bitcoin. Tomorrow we'll be diving right back in to analyze the weekly open and do another deep dive into Bitcoin's next moves, so you don't want to miss it. And for instant TA updates and charts throughout the day, make sure you're following me on X. For your daily dose of crypto news in under 90 seconds, check out my Instagram and TikTok. If this video helped you understand the gravity of the current market situation, do me a solid and demolish that like button. It truly helps the channel out. Please remember, none of this is financial advice. This content is for informational and entertainment purpose only. Always do your own research before making any investment decisions. Now I'm out of here, and as always guys, happy trading and see you soon.